I think these days Ron Howard has plenty of actual friends who do podcasts, and if he's listening to any podcasts, he's listening to those, not randos.
He's listening to these guys who cover a film he made in 1985 with a string of cliches. Dear God. Okay, Dave. We are going to start this episode off with a series of rapid fire questions about the prices of goods and items in the year 1986. Don't overthink it. Just best guess. You're not being scored. All right.
The listeners are scoring me, but
the listeners are definitely scoring. They are as judgmental as we are. Okay. In 1986, what do you think the price of a gasoline was?
A gallon of gas.
What did I say?
Is that what you're asking?
Hilarious.
You said a gas of gas.
That's fantastic.
Just making sure.
A price of gasoline. Yes, a gallon of gasoline.
All right. Speed round. I'm gonna $1.
Okay, $1. All right. Number 2. All right. How about the cost of a gallon of whole milk?
Also $1.
Oh, all right. I like that. And a pack of cigarettes.
Ooh, when I was in college in the 90s, I did sell these in gas stations. So I'm going to say in the 80s, $1.
Wow. All right. We like it. And how about the median household income?
20 or 25, something like that. Let's go with 25.
25. Wow. All right. Okay. I'll take it. And how about the cost of 30 minutes with your favorite escort in Las Vegas?
I have no idea what they cost now. I've never been
I've
never done 30 minutes with any escort, let alone in Vegas. But let's go with this is going to be totally random. I'm pulling it out of my butt. Let's go with let's see, how many packs of cigarettes would 30 minutes with the Vegas escort
I like
be?
that.
Let's go with 100. Let's go with $100.
100. All right. I'll take it. How about the price of a movie ticket in 1986?
Maybe a little less than. Let's go with $3.
Oh, wow. All right. I'll take that. All right. And how about the number one movie of 1986?
I don't even know it was released in 1986. That one's got to. Okay. Multiple choice.
Multiple choice. All right. Multiple choice. We're going to go with. Hold on. Here we go. Platoon, Aliens, Stand By Me, Top Gun, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay, it's Aliens or Top Gun.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, just because I know what a vehicle it was at the time, and Aliens, as big of a hit as it was James Cameron's second movie right after Terminator. So I'm going to go with Top Gun. It's got to be Top Gun.
Top Gun. All right, we'll take it. And finally, the average cost of a brand new car in the year 1986.
Wow. In 86, thinking of what my used cars cost in the 90s once again, and those were used cars, I'm going to go with it's low-ish, maybe somewhere between 3 to 5. Okay. Let's go with 5,000 because it's average. So there were some expensive S cars out there. So let's go with 5.
All right, fantastic. $5,000 we're taking. All right, for the answers, the average cost of a gallon of gas, 90 cents in 1986.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all. Okay. In 1986, the cost of a gallon of milk was $2.12. Exactly. All right.
Wow.
The cost of a pack of cigarettes.
I thought we had more cows than that back then. Okay. All right.
Indeed.
Cool.
Indeed. A pack of cigarettes cost $1.10. So not bad at all. The median household income was $24,897. So very close.
Woo! I'm taking that one. Yeah.
Yeah, you get that one for sure. And the cost of 30 minutes with your favorite escort in Las Vegas was $117. So, yeah,
that's not bad either.
It's not bad at all. It's not bad. Sounds like you had a good time.
Ballpark. I'm in super ballpark area. Yeah.
A good time with an escort and go and grab a gallon of milk.
It's like I grew up in the 80s or something.
I know,
it's amazing.
Right?
Okay, cool.
And the price of a movie ticket in 1986, $3.71. So again, not
Not
bad.
bad.
And the number one movie of 1986, of course, is Top Gun. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And finally, the average cost of a new car in 1986, $9,366. Exactly.
All right. So definitely some expensive ass cars out there. More than I thought.
Expensive ass cars out there. Well, those answers may just be important to the film we are pairing today, which is 1986's Gung-Ho by Ron Howard. That's right. That little redhead boy from the Andy Griffith Show. But right now, Dave, let's get gung-ho and run that fancy intro for the people. Are you not entertained?
Yes, sir! We'll have a real good time!
He's Dave, and I'm Dallas, and this is Vintertainment. We have opinions on just about everything. Sometimes those opinions are spot on. Sometimes they go down easier with a glass of wine. This is Vintertainment, the wine and entertainment pairing podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Vintertainment. This is, of course, the podcast where we pair wine with entertainment. It's as simple as that. And before we get to our movie, it's, of course, time for our wine trivia question of the week. Mr. Dilly Dally, the yeast strains that are used to ferment grape juice into wine, whether commercial strains or spontaneous/natural yeast, that is used. Sometimes you can just use the yeast ambient in the air that were on the grape skins when you pick the grapes. Sometimes use commercial strains because you have more control over the flavor profile they give and things like that. But no matter which one, all the strains that we use commonly to make grape based wine all can slow and die when the temperature drops below which degree?
Ooh.
Is it A, 14 degrees Celsius, aka 57 degrees Fahrenheit? B, 12 degrees Celsius, aka 53 degrees Fahrenheit. C, 10 degrees Celsius, aka 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Or D, 8 degrees Celsius, aka 46 degrees Fahrenheit. So which on that lowering scale, A to B to C to D, you're going down 2 degrees Celsius, each one from 14 to 8. So 14, 12, 10, or 8. And you're going from 57 degrees Fahrenheit to 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Where is that cutoff?
So the threshold of death.
Yeast
We are looking
starting
for
to
the
die.
threshold of yeast death. All right.
Right. Where fermentation basically will not happen because they slow to the point where they can't eat. They can't do the fermentation process, and then they start dying out.
All right. My gut tells me 57 is, interesting. That's counterintuitive. I can honestly say I don't know enough about the temperatures for yeast and wine fermentation. So this is going to be a purely blind guess, and I'm going with 53 or 12 degrees centigrade. Go ahead and tell me I'm fucking wrong.
Not bad, though. You are wrong, but you were close. It's just, it was C, the one right under it. It's
50,
10 degrees Celsius and 50 degrees Fahrenheit is where the cutoff is. And remember, kids, everyone listening, I'm sure you're all kids listening to a wine and movie pairing podcast. So kids, this one's going to be important when I reveal my wine pairing for today's movie. So remember that temperature amount, that 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's when wine yeast dies, because that's going to play a part into why I paired what I paired today. All right. Would you like to kick us off, D-Master?
Let's do this thing. Okay. You know those free association questions I asked Dave at the top of the question, right? That I said might be important to our pairing of 1986's Gung-Ho by Ron Howard. Well, the following abstract from a paper titled Knowledge Transfer, Toyota, NUMMI, and GM from Harvard Business is also important. Dave, would you care to read a brief of this paper for the peeps?
Yes, I will. And I promise this won't be too boring. So listen up, folks. Here we go. New United Motors Manufacturing Inc., or NUMMI, N-U-M-M-I, was a joint venture between Toyota and General Motors. It was an opportunity for GM to learn about the Toyota Production System, or TPS, which was quite different from the mass production processes American automakers used at the time. It was also an opportunity for Toyota to learn how to do business in the United States. GM contributed its shuttered Fremont assembly plant, and Toyota agreed to manage it. Now, the plant had a tumultuous history, with numerous quote-unquote wildcat strikes, which is a work stoppage initiated by employees without authorization from their union leadership, and constant bickering between GM management and the United Auto Workers, which was the union. So a lot of bickering there, and the workers just wildcat striking as they pleased. The vehicles produced there were the worst quality in all of GM. So Toyota hired mostly former GM workers, including well-known plant militants and activists. It taught workers TPS, the Toyota Production System, but more importantly, it installed a culture that was the essential quote-unquote software that enabled TPS to work. Toyota transformed the Fremont assembly plant into the most productive auto assembly plant in the US at the time, with quality comparable to its Japanese factories.
That's right. And of course, there is chatter that Gung-Ho was loosely inspired by this new United Motor Manufacturing
Oh, so
Inc.,
loosely.
or a NUMMI venture between GM and Toyota.
And it seems it was Edwin Bloom and daughter Deborah Bloom who brought the idea to Ron Howard's attention after seeing a 60 Minutes episode on the subject of Japanese auto companies moving into the American market. Ron Howard, having his own automobile connections, discovered that the cultural clashes between Japanese and American execs could often be entertaining. You mix all that up into a distinctly 80s blender and you get today's film. 1986's Gung-Ho. Horribly inoffensive in 1986, as all Ron Howard movies are, and horribly offensive in 2026, as all Ron Howard movies are. The film stars Michael Keaton just before his turn as Batman, with supporting appearances by Gede Watanabe and George Wendt. Both Eddie Murphy and Bill Murray allegedly turned down the Keaton role because I guess they had taste. Anywho, Michael Keaton stars as Hunt Stevenson, a motormouth blue-collar worker who lacks all the charm of Rocky Balboa, but definitely has the inability to shut the fuck up of Rocky Balboa. And he hopes to save a failing Pennsylvania automobile assembly factory from closing its operations by traveling to Japan to convince a Japanese auto firm to reopen the factory, keep staff, and streamline its operations. And after all the requisite Hollywood conversations, lunches, coffees, meet cutes, and hobnobs, the film was greenlit with a budget of $13 million.
That's right. Principal photography was slated to begin July 18th, 1985 in Pennsylvania and Japan, with filming ending in October 1985. The film would go on to spend 16 days at Principal Photography in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where Ron Howard managed to locate a shuttered assembly plant that worked perfectly for the setting. Later added to the locale's list was Shadyside, Ohio, where filming took place for 2 days. The film opened on March 14th, 1986, with an opening draw of $7,178,830,000 and a lifetime gross of $36,611,610. The reception seemed to run hot and cold, though summed up by Siskel and Ebert's original reviews of the film. Siskel found it humorous, but wasn't sure the movie knew what it was trying to say, while Ebert couldn't give a positive review because it felt offensive, of course, toward Japanese culture.
And both reviewers' takes are, as far as I could tell, completely accurate. Ebert wrote, and I quote, "I think the fault is in the screenplay, which tells a story that can be predicted almost from the opening frames. The people who wrote this movie did not bother or dare to give us truly individual Japanese characters. There is only one who is developed with any care. Nor did they think much about how a Japanese automaker might really impact a small American town. The movie feels more like an attack on labor unions then a clash of alien cultures. And the message seems to be that the American car industry would be as successful as the Japanese if our workers were willing to work $8 an hour, 7 days a week with unpaid overtime just because of their patriotic pride, unquote. So on that note, my friends, let's get to our act-by-act breakdown of Gung-Ho from 1986. This is where we break the movie down into 3 acts, give a brief synopsis for each, and discuss our thoughts on the film and what we were thinking in terms of a wine pairing every step of the way. We will be spoiling the plot of the movie. So if that's something you're sensitive to, this movie, again, not one of those movies where there's a lot to reveal per se, but if you're sensitive to that and you want to see the movie first, this is your Here There Be Spoilers warning.
That's right.
Here we go. Act 1. In Japan, Asan Motors corporate managing director Kazuhiro, played by Goutte Watanabe, receives a blow to his back from a sadistic trainer during a management class on corporate discipline for failing executives. In America, former automobile factory foreman Hunt Stevenson, played by Michael Keaton, begins to make a trip to Japan to entice Asan Motors to open a factory in his hometown of Hadleyville, Pennsylvania. If he is not successful, hundreds of auto workers will remain unemployed. On the way to his meeting in Japan, Hunt gets lost in the countryside, and a farmer gives him directions. He returns to the city and interrupts a scene where Kazuhiro is still undergoing quote-unquote training, aka fraternity-like humiliation, to ask for more directions. This time, he is only a block away from his intended destination. Upon entering the Asan Motors conference room, a table of stone-faced Japanese executives barely acknowledge his presence. He shows slides of an American automobile factory built 35 years earlier and completely renovated 2 years ago, then closed in the previous 9 months. When he sees that he is not getting much of a reaction, especially to his stupid asinine jokes, he stops the slide presentation and describes how the factory provided employment for the entire town. When it closed, hardworking people lost their livelihood, but if Asan Motors agrees to open a plant in Hadleyville, it would save his town. However, the Asan executives are unresponsive, or seemingly so, and Hunt returns home defeated. There, his girlfriend, Audrey, tells Hunt that more small businesses have closed while he was gone. But days later, Hunt's friend, Junior, announces Asan executives are coming to Hadleyfield. They arrive to a budget marching band ticker tape parade thrown by the town. Faced with a rolled-out red carpet, the Japanese executives awkwardly remove their shoes to step on it, prompting the American city politicians to do the same. Ha ha ha. Later, Hunt stops by the plant office and recognizes Kazuhiro from the conversation at his training session in Japan. Kazuhiro offers him the position of employee liaison with the promise of a hefty raise. Kazuhiro gives Hunt a copy of the company's labor policy and expects him to explain the Japanese way of making cars and conducting business. At an auto workers union meeting, Hunt convinces workers they are lucky to have the Japanese company in their town and should let management acclimate before they start making demands, and they agree. Kazuhiro welcomes the workers on their first day. All right, end of Act 1. The plant's there, the Japanese are there, they're beginning, but they want these American workers to do it their way or the highway.
That's right.
Dallas, thoughts?
My first question after Act 1 is Kool-Aid an option for pairing? Because my God, I was telling Dave before we started this audience that I love this film. I actually secretly love this film because it is not great storytelling. It's not masterful in any way, but it is a thumbnail from the 1980s, a very specific thumbnail trapped between technological sort of ages, really. You know, it's this sort of East versus West protocol. I love that. I love that concept. I think
the great that we're trying to make America again.
Exactly. And so I had some hope for the concept going in. I was like, oh, okay, this could be a nice little slice of Americana. This could be a nice little like time capsule, technologically speaking. Like it's got all
Everything
the
I
potential
want to forget.
parts.
Everything I want to forget.
No, we got to dig back because we're here again because of that shit. But anyway, there is nothing terribly thought out or serious about Act One. It's just a bunch of storytelling benchmarks that set the stage for the action, if you can call it that. The stock characters don't really inspire much confidence in the potential storytelling, but if you are the kind of person who's looking for a good old-fashioned, hint, hint, American and supposedly Japanese...
They're like characters from a sex comedy. It's bizarre. It's like they don't know what kind of movie they're making.
Yeah, it does have like you're right. It does have a weirdly
it's like an
fetish.
Animal House level of comedy.
Yeah.
When they do comedy, they do Animal House comedy, and I'm like, what movie is this? This is not what you. This is not the kind of humor that should be in this movie.
There is a bit of a fetishistic kind of element. You're right. And I actually I didn't put that in my notes, but you're right.
And just so lowest common denominator, like to like bottom of the barrel physical comedy and yuck at like, oh, you're from a different ethnicity and culture, and we're small town working class. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, scoop my brain out with a spoon.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, but it is, as Dave was just saying, you take an American's version of the cliches of Japanese culture and an American's versions of the cliches of America's middle-class working culture. You put them in a blender, mix them up, add an American flag and a baseball game and, some odd underwear that Americans are unfamiliar with, and you get this film. Wine-wise, I honestly have no clue at this point. I was still just sitting there with my jaw and my mouth agape, just like, oh, wow. This was not only made, but made some serious dough as well. Okay.
I don't know about serious dough, but it did okay.
I don't know. It's made $40 million life with a $13 million budget, and even that was sort of questionable. I'm not
right, but again, $30 million is breaking even, so it's like it did okay. No. It did okay. It didn't. It's not breaking any bit. No one made a sequel. No one bought the
sequel's waiting on us, Dave. The sequel's waiting on us. We gotta write it. We gotta write the sequel.
It did okay, but it did better than To be fair, though, it's Michael Keaton. His star was rising right around this time.
Yeah.
Ron Howard had just done Cocoon. So his star was rising at the time. And you can see how the concept of this movie, too, it doesn't sound like a bad concept at all, especially if it's based on a true life. Like this was happening in American culture. We were business-wise. The Japanese were our competition.
100%. Everything.
They were the in all electronics, in automobile making,
anything technological. We were playing catch up at that point in time for sure.
Yeah, the 80s were like it was a crisis for a crisis plural for American everything, because they were the ones that were always ahead of us and always doing the next major advancement.
They were kicking our asses in video games at the time. They were kicking our asses in computers.
When I saw what this movie was going to be, I was like, okay, how have I never heard of this? Oh, and then I found out why I have never heard of this. But at first I can see why it would appeal. And at the time, the American public liked this kind of shit back then. So
again, Ron Howard does, and this is true for most of his films. I attribute it to his placement in the cultural sort of in our canon. Everything he does has a slice of Mayberry in it, meaning.
I don't know what that means.
Well, Mayberry is a very specific imagery, right? It is small town America during the mid-century. It is the Andy Griffith Show. Is Mayberry.
What is Mayberry?
Mayberry is the name of the town from the Andy Griffith Show.
Okay, never seen it. I know what it is. I've just never seen it.
Okay, wow. Note to self, anyone who wants to do a viewing of a couple of episodes of the Andy Griffith Show so that Dave can be a real, true American at some point, let us know. And if you
never seen Happy Days. I've never seen the Andy Griffith Show. I've never seen All in the Family.
What?
I hate TV. I hate American TV. I hate it.
Okay.
So I've watched very little of it.
All right, we're gonna do we may do an American TV pilot month where we review 3 or 4 essential pilots in the past and discuss. Anyhow,
Never seen Seinfeld. Never
Okay.
saw there's so much. There's
All
so
right.
much.
we're gonna create a master list of 5 or 6 pilot episodes that we're gonna watch and we're gonna discuss at some point. The sort of American TV cornerstones, which number 1 on that list will probably be the show that Ron Howard got his start in, the Andrew
wait.
show, which is set, of course, in the fictional town or quasi-fictional town of Mayberry. Anyway, so that's why I say everything he does has a touch of Mayberry, and I think most people who are familiar with the Andrew Griffith Show will understand what I'm saying. There's a sort of cornerstone
Sentimentality.
of Americana,
Schmaltzy sentimentality,
in everything he
yes.
does, and you can see it sort of progress through the ages, right? And this one is no different. Like you said, it was this idea of playing catch up on the technological stage is clear and present in everybody's mind. There were so many, 60 Minutes episodes or deep dives and journalistic kind of pieces about, this giant coming from the East that is, came to claim America's, dominance. And, the Noomi thing, which started in, I think, around 1984, it was up and running. That was on everybody's mind. So it's clearly the inspiration. But anyway, back to the point. Wine-wise, I have no fucking idea and or clue what to pair with this. I briefly toyed with the idea of maybe some Japanese sort of rice wines or some sort of, fruit wines and things like that. But in terms of like a traditional sort of wine, I was like, I need a little more time with this. We'll see if something jumps out. But I'm who knows where I end up with you for this? Where about you? What about you? Jesus.
Yeah. Don't forget we had that black rice wine, the dessert wine.
It's very nice. Very nice.
On our rare wine night not too long ago, like a month or two ago. So for me, obviously this movie is about culture clashes, the two coming together and being so shocked by how that you do things differently than us. It just drives me absolutely batshit fucking insane.
What do you mean a woman can't sit at the table when men are talking? What?
No shit. Well, there's that. And there is, this film is completely unserious.
Yeah.
It caricatures both cultures. There's so little nuance. To Ebert's point in his review, where he's like, no one seems to have put any thought into how a Japanese manufacturing group would have actually impacted an American working class culture. They go for the easiest send up of what that might look like. So the opening scene even suggested, and it's interesting because the opening scene with Keaton is almost semi-serious.
Yes.
Right? Where he's with his girlfriend
it is actually
in the
very
car.
serious. Yes.
Right. He's like, this is going to, but you know what? I'm not even nervous. We're going to go and we're going to make this presentation. We're going to save this town. And I'm like, okay, I'm into this. This is cool. It's like his trip to Japan is almost going to be a realistic one. And then suddenly we get to Japan and it's all visual gags of him getting lost on foot in rice paddy fields, eating McDonald's over anything that he looks at and he doesn't understand what it is, of course. And somehow this all happens in like a couple of hours and he still makes it to his morning meeting. I'm like, you were lost for like seemingly a whole day in Japan. And then he still makes it, like the sun is still high in the sky and he makes it to his meeting and he's only a little bit late. And I'm like, none of this makes, so it doesn't even make like sense in real time and space kind of a thing. They're just going for the jokes and jokes do not have to make sense in any real world type of situation. And it rarely tickled my sense of humor either. I was just like, holy shit, we're so god awful.
I will say this. My favorite line of the entire thing. Favorite line. Those are ribbons of shame. Loved it. That was just like, okay. All right.
Your badges. And he's like, oh, these nice ribbons. Those are ribbons of shame. But the best part, even when the Japanese get to America, they have that scene where they get into their hot spring outfits, right? And headgear. And then they wade into the disgusting small town factory river, which no Japanese would ever do. Exactly. They would no Japanese they would take one look at our water and be like, no, thank you. We have a spa in our fucking hotel somewhere.
Your
and
factory-lined river. No, thank you, please. No, thank you.
No shit. Yeah. I'm like, and of course they're just doing it in the middle of the day for no seeming reason. Like, they go to America, and even the Japanese themselves, the characters are written to like just want to treat it like Japan, like there's nothing different. And I'm like, this hurts me so much because the Americans want nothing to change now that they're working for Japanese culture. The Japanese just come and try to treat it like Japan. We plainly did not bother to find out how Japan actually worked because we're just sending up their culture during the times we're in there. So, you know, my only thought at this point was a wine that was culture clash in some way, shape, or form. Now, part of that wine, of course, it's American and Japanese. There really isn't any such thing that are those two things specifically per se. I did think, of course, there's sake, right? And so sake is a definite possibility. And there is an Arkansas-based sake group. They grow all the rice in Arkansas. It is all proper Arkansian sake. I can get it at K&L. It's around in America. It's actually quite good sake, not too expensive either. Right. So I was like, maybe something around that, like, you know, the Japanese bringing it but sake also was a little, I'm like, I feel like sake is as on the nose as this movie is on the nose. Exactly. Would that be a match?
Exactly.
Yes, it would be a match. But we're one act in, and I'm so fucking annoyed with this movie that I'm already thinking like, okay, culture clash. I don't know what that's going to mean, but I'm thinking maybe something to counteract this movie. Okay. Because I think matching this movie is going to drive me extra insane.
Agreed.
And I don't want to revel in what this movie is giving me. I want to fight it. Yeah. And so I think my pairing is probably going to be something to fight that. That's what I got so far.
All right. Yeah. Act 1 was... Anyway. All right. Act 2.
Let's talk about Act 2.
Act 2. To build teamwork, Kazuhiro and Mr. Saito, another executive, lead morning exercises while the Americans laugh at the idea. Kazuhiro turns to Hunt for support, and he motivates the workers to sort of cooperate. The Asan executive team observes the workers through closed-circuit television to spot any problems on the assembly line. One supervisor tells a worker named Paul he cannot smoke a cigar or listen to music on the job. When Buster, another worker, complains that he has to do a lot of different jobs instead of his specialty, Hunt takes Mr. Saito aside for a talk, but Saito insists Buster can only go back to his job once he understands how everyone else's job works. Another worker, Gugi, is told he cannot read a newspaper in the bathroom. A worker named Willie thought he had permission to see his son in the hospital. He had cleared it with Hunt, but he's prevented from leaving the factory by the Japanese executives. Hunt tells Kazuhiro the rules are oppressive, and the workers dislike Saito. Kazuhiro reveals that Saito is the nephew of the company's CEO, Mr. Sakamoto. However, Hunt obtains permission to let the workers do the jobs they know how to do best. At the factory, a former worker, Tony, is assigned to Buster's position on the assembly line, and Buster assumes he is getting a promotion. But Saito reassigns him to sweep the floors. Buster is irate and wants to quit, but Hunt reminds him that he has a family to support and promises to smooth things over at dinner with the Kazuhiros. At the dinner, Hunt criticizes the Japanese way of doing business. Kazuhiro tells him he is fired and will go back on the assembly line. Hunt panics and argues that the factory was still open. Now, when the factory was still open, production was up 10%. Kazuhiro responds that in a Japanese factory, production would normally be up 40%. Hunt says if the workers have to work longer hours, which they can, they have to be paid time and a half. Kazuhiro answers that the Japanese way is to make the company look good without extra compensation. Audrey tries to back Hunt up in his panic, but in his panic, he lashes out at her, telling her to shut up, almost literally that bluntly, for no reason whatsoever, and she storms out. Well, and truly done with Hunt. Hunt calms down, then claims, as he always does, that he will be able to work things out because he is the smoother outer. Later, Hunt joins the Asan executives' morning swimming ritual in the river and claims he will press the workers to produce Get this number, people. 15,000 cars in 1 month, matching the Japanese monthly record. And if they accomplish this, the company increases salaries up to their previous levels and guarantees full employment. At the next union meeting, Hunt stirs up the crowd with a challenge, first appealing to their American pride, then revealing what it will take to be as good as the Japanese. Producing 15,000 cars a month intimidates the Americans, so they suggest if they do 13,000, they can get half raises. Once again panicking and always waiting to be liked, Hunt fibs and says, yeah, sure, but don't think like that. Think about making the 15,000 happen, huh? You can see where this is going. The auto workers arrive early, leave later, and take shorter lunch breaks. But after 2 weeks, they inform Hunt they will be happy to produce 13,000 cars and get a little compensation. And oh, fuck. Hunt can't tell them that he lied, and they get nothing if they miss their quota. Hunt invites Kazuhiro to go have a beer. They get drunk, and Kazuhiro admits Saito is telling the head office he is losing control. One more mishap, and he will be fired. Hunt admits he falsely promised the men they would receive partial compensation if they produce 13,000 cars. Kazuhiro laughs because Hunt is in even more up Schitt's Creek state than he is. Later, Tony has an accident on the assembly line. Saito orders the men back to work, but Kazuhiro finally breaks and decides that it is appropriate to stop since a man is hurt, which, by the way, is a hilarious scene. Anyway, for odd reasons. At the hospital, the workers learn from an executive that they will not be compensated for 13,000 cars and only for the 15,000. They confront Hunt at his house and theorize that the Japanese broke their promise to Hunt. Instead of telling his friends the truth, Hunt pretends, oh my God, those jerks. Yeah, they're going back on their word. And he promises to sort out the problem. All right, Wine. Dave, what you got?
Yeah. So this is where I literally wrote in the notes, sweet Jesus, where do I begin?
Yeah, you did.
So believe it or not, folks, you just heard all of that was just Act 2. This is a 2-hour movie, and it has no right to be. This film, like I said, it's Animal House humor, and this thing should have been a svelte 80 minutes in and out. And if they were going to be this silly and non-serious, this needed to not be treating it like a 2-hour proper drama, which it kind of does, even though it's also a comedy and it's a real frat humor comedy. It just doesn't work. Everything about it's all atonal as shit. So yeah, this movie is unbearable, especially in the second act. Everyone's a cartoon character. Every dramatic scene is artificial with overbearing on-the-nose dialogue, and Keaton's Hunt is such a fucking liar. Yeah. He's not just a people pleaser. That's distinct from someone who just wants to be liked. Right. And so a people pleaser is you're going to work it out so that everyone can be happy, and you don't want to rock the boat, but you don't lie just to make people think you're awesome and doing an amazing job. That's a different thing. And Hunt is more and I think the movie does hint a couple of times, suggests that he's sort of an ex-jock, right, from his high school days. And so he's the popular kid. Yeah,
he's the quarterback mentality. He's the guy. Yeah.
Yes. And so he's I can run, I can save this town. I can be the figurehead of this town, but I have to be popular. Yeah. Everyone needs to like me and think I'm amazing. And most of his decision-making isn't really about even keeping people happy. It's just about keeping them liking him at any given time, which is not the most empathetic thing. Yeah, go ahead, Del.
It isn't. I may be giving more credit to the script, but the writers, but generally that character trait, the person ends up painting themselves into a corner, and they think that currency of likability is the thing that has gotten them as far as they have. So they get
they're going to charm their way out.
Exactly. Yeah. They get tied to it. If they can only, position themselves to get enough time to right whatever wrong or, whatever situation they've had to kind of, put themselves in. So again, I don't know if that's what was behind this character, but you're right. This character starts sort of as a people pleaser. At least initially, it seems like he was doing it for the good of the town. That was the setup. Right. And it was a beautiful little setup. Like we discussed earlier, that was okay, that's admirable. I like like that. It fits with this whole Americana thing. It fits with this sort of transition in technology, East versus West, Japan on the ascent thing, Middle America, factories out of work. That was a big problem in the 80s. So all that stuff in the beginning, that sort of groundwork, I solid hopes for it. But by the time we get here to Act 2, it's almost, it's almost like
we're both rubbing our faces.
we really
right
are.
now,
I'm like
guys.
sweating
you
trying to
can't-
find the words. I'm like,
we're just like this movie.
I wonder. Here's my question. I wonder if there were earlier versions of this script that were really good. Now let me say why. Let me say why.
Guaranteed no, but go ahead.
I say this because this is such a corporate, not indictment of corporate culture, but could be an indictment of American corporate culture, and then sort of these massive cross-national partnerships that were happening at the time, that it is newsworthy, it is topical. There are a lot of entities which probably had higher stakes with, the sort of PR and marketing that would come from this, that it feels almost like someone may have written a great script, and then along the way, the powers that be were like, oh, okay, I
think you're seeing this. You're seeing this with 21st century eyes. You're seeing this with way too 21st century.
Maybe.
One, we were not critical of corporate culture in the 80s. I hate to break it to you. No one was. Like, it just wasn't like corporate culture was fucking. This was Reaganomics era.
Yeah.
Like, corporate culture was swimming, and we were going to beat the Japanese at their own game. We were gonna. The workers are like, we're going to get to Act 3 here in a moment, I guess this is where Act 2 kind of ends when Hunt goes to the workers and he's like, when he convinces them to try for the 15,000 cars in a month, the first thing he does is he appeals to their American pride, and he's like, who's the best? And he's like, we are. And, and they're like, who's the best auto manufacturer? We are. We better than the Japanese. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, America. Fuck yeah. And
that's the quote of the day.
Then, right. And then he's like, and if we're the best, then we can do as good as the Japanese. Yeah. And we can do even better. Yeah. Then we have to make 15,000 cars in 1 month. Dead silence. Right, because then the workers, it's not just braggadocio at that point. It's not just bravado.
It's work
ethic. Now, right. Now it's like, now you have to put out what the Japanese do. Yeah. Are you as good or better than the Japanese? And the realization of that lifestyle, which is so antithetical to ours, or seemingly so, that's where suddenly everyone has to just like pause and be like, well, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, you can't ask us to do, of course we're better, but that's crazy. Like, it doesn't actually make sense when you're really confronted with what that's going to mean to have American exceptionalism where you are truly exceptional compared to your competition. What does that look like in terms of sheer numbers? So, and I think in the 80s too, like, even if this went with the true life story and more adhered to that, but made it a bit of a fun fish out of water comedy with the Japanese coming over to America and these two cultures have to learn how to work together. The true life story isn't critical of corporate culture. Like it was a success story. And as far as we know, not only did the workers work well and not have to like work for $8 an hour for obscene hours or anything like that, but then they were the most productive and produced the most high quality cars. So it's like, even if they did the real story, I don't think this was ever meant to be a critique of corporate culture. I think that is us living in the now, thinking that any story like this would have to be a critique of corporate culture, but it was a different world then.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know though. I still feel maybe it wasn't a critique, but maybe there was a much better version of this script in the early stages. Who the fuck knows? All we know is that wine-wise with Act 2, I have absolutely no clue at this point. I know it's not a wine. I honestly, it is rare. You know me, Dave. I'm very quick.
Because Act 2, I knew after Act 2.
It was one of those situations where I was like, okay, the only hint I got was, okay, maybe this is an American spin on or Japanese spin on an American classic, or vice versa. I was like, okay. And again, it's that cross culture thing you were referencing. But wine wise, you know, I went to the sakes, of course, and went to other Asian liqueurs, and you know, it was just like, all right, I have no clue where we're going here, but we'll see. Yep.
And for me, wine wise, this is where I was like, okay, you know what? 100%, I want something to counteract this movie. So this is going to be something, and I was pretty sure this thoroughly put me off from American exceptionalism and that whole mentality and 80s Americana that I was like, it will not be American.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I am Xing you out of this, America. Like, whatever this is going to be, it will still be a culture mashup. It'll still be a culture clash. It will still be, and I definitely wanted something to counteract the brashness of the movie. And so I'm like, nothing too hard hitting, nothing brash, nothing mouthy, nothing like, I wanted something now like delicate, something elegant, something floral. So I'm like, everything that's going to counteract the feeling of this movie, I'm gonna counter pair, and then something that still had this little culture mashup element to it. And I really wanted to include Japanese as one of those cultures if possible.
Okay.
And I realized I knew of a wine that checked all those boxes.
All right, now
now the one other thing I did want to mention movie wise is I am always baffled by characters in books, in movies, mostly in movies and TV shows. This seems to happen, but sometimes in books too, who fuck up a relationship, like in just the most dumb, like foot in mouth, buddy, this is nothing but your, buddy or lady, whichever one it is, this is nothing but your fault. Like, the other person was trying and you barely were, and then you burned the bridge. Like, right there, we watched you douse it in gasoline, flip the match, throw it carelessly on it, go, oh yeah, that burned. And then
oopsie,
they do absolutely nothing to repair it.
Yeah.
Days go by, weeks go by. We see time pass, and I'm like, did you call them? Yeah. Did you try to talk to them? Like, how are you? And then, there's a later scene. We're going to get to Act 3 here in just a moment. There's a later scene where he sees her just kind of in public in the town, part of a group gathering kind of a thing. And you can see he's like, oh yeah, I'd love to repair. I'm like, do you? How long has it been? How long has it been where you've done nothing to repair it? And those characters baffle me. And I don't know if there are truly people in real life that do that as well, where they literally don't try at all. They never make the one phone call. Maybe maybe they make a few phone calls and the person's like, I am not talking to you right now. And then maybe, usually that's more common, where it's like that happens and then they're not sure when they can actually talk to them again. And the other person is so mad, maybe it just lasts a little too long and then it just fizzles out and fades. That's all a different thing. I'm talking about, we see characters in stories that do nothing as far as we can tell. And fuck those people to the ends of the universe, because I do not understand that. If that is a real thing, I do not understand that. And yet later we're supposed to pretend like they actually gave a shit and want the relationship to get back together. And it's like, but only if you have to do nothing.
Anyway. Guys, Dave's communication style is very much knock, knock, knock. We need to talk. So yeah.
And it's like, and if you don't want to, if I effed up and you don't want to talk, that's fair. Like, you get that decision, right? And it's like, okay, and I can try a few more times. I can make sure that it's not on me, that I'm not doing it worse. Like, now that I've effed it up, I'm not effing it up more.
Right.
But it will, the onus is on the person who F's it up.
For sure.
No question.
For sure.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. On that cheery note, Act 3. Let's bring this home. Asan's CEO, Mr. Sakamoto, surprises Kazuhiro at his home in America and is angry to learn that the workers are planning a big union meeting. Hunt appears appeals to Kazuhiro to offer partial raises for producing just those 13,000 cars because he's in a bind, because he's lied way too often to way too many people. But Kazuhiro cannot, because he's in as much of a bind as Hunt is. And the men argue over what is wrong with each other's culture. Hunt storms out and destroys a surveillance camera in the plant. Kazuhiro fires Hunt and argues the Japanese method is the right way to run a factory. Hunt retorts, if Japan is so great, you know where this is, you knew this was coming somewhere in the movie, how come they lost the war?
There you go.
Buster calls for a walkout and the other workers join him. Later, at a 4th of July town celebration at the park, the mayor informs the crowd that Asan is shutting down the factory and blames Hunt for letting this happen. On the podium, surrounded by his people and drowning in his failings, Hunt confesses that he lied. He thought the auto workers would meet their obligation, but they have lost their can-do spirit. Mirroring this moment, at the factory, Kazuhiro tells Mr. Sakamoto that his team is working too hard and it is killing them. They do not have time to enjoy their families, and they could learn a few things from the Americans on this front. And Kazuhiro also walks out. Later that night, when the park is empty, Audrey appears and tells Hunt his speech took guts and she is proud of him. And this is the part where I'm like, fuck you, Hunt. You did nothing to repair this relationship. And she's the one making the first move. It drives me nuts. Anyways, as they drive home at dawn, the relationship apparently repairing itself on absolutely no effort on Hunt's part. They just miss hitting Kazuhiro with their car, who walks in front of them. Hunt chases after him as Kazuhiro runs into the river. When Hunt calms Kazuhiro down, he remarks that he could do better if he had a second chance. So, outside the factory, the workers cheer at the Japanese as they dismantle their factory, but Hunt and Kazuhiro arrive and announce they are going to build the remaining 1,000 cars to reach 15,000. They have until the end of the day, or like 7-something p.m.
Which is
that
crazy.
It's crazy. It doesn't. But anyway, it's a movie.
Yeah.
This part, I'm okay with the little movie logic
Crazy.
here. Anyways, Buster says Hunt wants to look good for management. That's the only reason he's doing this. But Tony says maybe he just wants to save the town. This is one thing about the workers too, is they're so obstinate about everything. And I'm like, motherfuckers, you have no other options. That's the whole point of this. You're all up shit's creek without a paddle. Like, and the movie never really, because this is where it could be a corporate culture critique.
Yes,
is where these small towns are so locked into whatever the job is that can work there, that like they have no other options. They have to bend over backwards no matter what their CEOs and executives are telling them to do, because what options do they have? The town dies or they do it. And the movie squints so hard at that reality.
I think it has
that it keeps saying it but it squints at like what that means for these workers. And the workers are just like, oh, we're never doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, aren't you?
And it's crazy.
Aren't you?
It's crazy because had they dipped into that seriousness, dipped into that sort of dire situation, it would have added, I'm not saying it would have made a great film, but it would have added more dynamic to this film without question. And it would have been so much more palatable.
Right. And every once in a while, Hunt is like, one of the workers wants to quit and he's like, no, think of your family. And it's like, it's the hint is that you have there's nowhere else to go, dude. If you quit this, you've quit. Like you've stopped working, period. There's nowhere else to go. You have to leave the town. And so they know, but it doesn't really go there. And to this movie's detriment, it doesn't really go there. Anyway, soon the workers are back on the floor building cars with Hunt and Kazuhiro. Later, Mr. Sakamoto counts 14,994 completed cars. They attempt, Hunt says, the cars, there were 6 more kind of still on the factory floor that they realize they're running out of time. So they quickly kind of make them look complete, but they're not actually complete. Mr. Sakamoto is skeptical when he's shown these 6 cars. Hunt says the cars were built with teamwork. To prove his point, he starts the ignition, gets in the car, straps on his seatbelt, starts to drive away, and the whole thing falls apart, like literally falls into pieces. When the situation looks dire, Mr. Sakamoto suddenly announces he believes the workers have fulfilled their quota. A cheer erupts, and he says that he likes Hunt because he makes him laugh. He also tells his nephew Saito that he is fired because Saito was like, he's the biggest jerk of the whole group.
Yeah.
He's the one who was like, no. He wants the workers to fail. And so now, Saito's kind of like the nephew of Mr. Saito. He'll be fine. He'll get another job. Anyways, the next morning, the workers join Hunt and Kazuhiro as they lead the morning exercises, and the new version of this factory of Japan and America working in tandem, in harmony, has begun. Final thoughts. Should I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, it's an ending. It's the Japanese. I appreciate that the Mr. Sakamoto CEO, the one thing that I did a little bit like is that he says, I like you because you make me laugh. But also I think he just saw how hard the people were working.
Yeah.
Authentically.
Yeah.
Like he saw that. And he's like, and even though in sort of the Japanese ethos, like one shy does not count. Like that is not good enough. This was an American factory and they never pulled anything off like this or anything close to. And, Kazuhiro had already complained where the Japanese way also has its downsides. Like, you never see your family, you work for the company, you live for the company, and that's not the best way to live either. And the fact that this was all this softening on the Japanese side as well as the American side, like, I like that. Like, it has a little bit of a redeeming quality in the end where they're like, both sides had to bend for this to work and for them to move forward as a better factory. They had to stop drawing a line in the sand and being like, this doesn't happen, we're out. And everyone suffers. And and then the workers had to stop being like, if we don't work exactly the way we like, we're out. Right. And everyone suffers. Right. And like everyone had to stop doing that and find that middle ground. So the movie has a few redeeming elements. Still fuck Hunt. I hate that character. I hate him so much. Kazuhiro was very likable, but not Michael, not Michael Keaton's Hunt. I love Michael Keaton, but man, this character, just everything that was wrong with America at the time. Anyway, so the thing that checked all the boxes, nothing changed between what I was thinking by the end of Act 2 to the end of this, and it is a wine called Viña Marty's Goutte d'Argent, or Silver Drop, Sauvignon Blanc from the Aconcagua Valley in Chile. All right, so it's Chilean. Now, they produce both a Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay under this label, the Goutte d'Argent label, the Silver Drop label. And so in this unique style, those are the two wines they do. What makes them unique? They're fermented using Japanese sake yeasts, number 7 and number 9. I think it's N degree 7, N degree 9. I'm assuming that means number 7, number 9. I'm not 100% certain about that. But in any event, only members of the Sake Producers Federation are allowed to use this yeast in the world. And Viña Marty are the only non-Japanese member today. The winemaker there took him years to get approval to be able to use the yeast. I
like this.
And he had to pitch them the idea because they're very protective of their culture. So just like in the way that the Europeans, the French don't want anyone using terms like champagne or Côte de Rhône or Burgundy if you're not actually from, so they protect those things. Right. The exact sake yeast strains in Japan, they're like, this is for Japan. Right. Like no one else, we do not want anyone else using it. They're native to here, and we don't want to just spread it far and wide. So Viña Marty, they had to convince them that the point of using it was to bring the cultures together and to spread them. This is a celebration of the two cultures, the Chilean culture and the Japanese culture, the European style of wine and the sake version of wine, and bringing them together to create something new. And it took them a couple of years, but they did convince them. And they got approval to use the yeast. They are the only ones in the world making wine with Japanese sake yeasts. These yeasts are a true Japanese culture. And what they do is they allow wines to vinify at much lower temperatures than regular wine yeast. This is why it was so important for the winemaker to get this. So this has always been a dream for winemakers, to keep aromas and flavors from being lost to the heat of fermentation. There's always a little bit that gets lost because of how high those temperatures have to go with wine yeast strains. So this Sauvignon Blanc It has a very new and unique profile for a Sauvignon Blanc, mixing the terroir of Chile, techniques of French vinification, but the traditions of Japan with their yeast. Vinification is in stainless steel tanks with an average length of 90 to 130 days for fermentation to complete.
Okay.
That is very slow.
90 to 130
Typical
days.
wine, typical wine fermentation is 10 to 21 days.
Okay.
And this is 30 to 130 days for fermentation to fully complete. The fermentation temperatures are 6 to 8 degrees Celsius. So well below that 10 degrees Celsius cutoff where wine yeast starts to die. So when Viña Marty, when the winemaker learned that these yeast actually fermented at those lower temperatures, that's when he was like, we need that, especially for white wines.
Right.
If you want to make clean, fresh, delicate, aromatic whites, this is what allows you to do that. So that's what he did. I paired this specifically with the Sauvignon Blanc. And by the way, the sake yeast doesn't like sulfur at all. So no sulfites, as minimal sulfites as humanly possible were used in this wine because the sake yeast does not get along with it.
All right.
So this is the Goutte d'Argent or Silver Drop. The label of this wine was designed by the Drops of God manga creators, the brother-sister team of that. And the wine is featured in the pages of the manga. So if you ever read the Drops of God manga, you will learn of this wine in the manga. It's not on the TV show yet, I don't believe. I'm in the middle of season 2, but I don't believe it's featured on the TV show. This is a very citrusy, white florals. You get some baked goods. They soak it on the lees to give it a little bit of extra creamy body because of how light and fresh they're keeping it with that sake yeast fermentation. It remains so floral and light and bright and fresh that they give it some lees soakage to also give it some creaminess and extra body there. Reviewers have claimed the wine is quote unquote not very varietal. At least it doesn't have the pungent herbal aromas of many Sauvignon Blancs coming out of Chile, unquote. Which I gotta say, that begs the question of whether something can be called varietal if changing the yeast strain changes that.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, then not very locked into the variety. If that's
playing
true,
a little loosey-goosey,
I feel like we've got.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like, but it's typical, and so typicity often equals varietally correct. But I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is a great test. Change the yeast strains. If those things go away or switch,
that's right.
Plainly, it's not the variety itself it's not locked into the point where it remains a standard. No matter what you do with the yeast strains or what you do with the, if you age it in a different vessel and it just like the thing is just lost completely. It's like, well, then not, I mean, it's one thing if you overpower all the other flavors with something like new oak or something, that's a little bit of a different story. But like if you did, old oak versus concrete, but then you do it in concrete and something is just like lost, but it's typically a new, whatever it is. Like if it's in the winemaking methodology, right. I don't think we can call it part of the variety correctness.
That's the article. Look forward to the article coming soon, guys.
I think that will be true. But anyways, this is my wine. It was, it's a little atypical for Sauvignon Blanc, but a Sauvignon Blanc is something that Americans are very familiar with. They like quite a bit. We sell it quite a lot. So it still would match it. It's good for an American palate. It's going to be light, bright, fresh, nice and cool. And with that sake yeast, you've got the merging of the two cultures. So Goutte d'Argent, that is spelled, we'll have a link down below, guys, but that is spelled Goutte, and then D''Argent. So Goutte d'Argent, Sauvignon Blanc from Viña Marty. Marty, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
All right, Dallas, what you got?
All right, yeah, I like that. I'm definitely gonna have to find a bottle. You don't have a bottle of that now, do you? Did you finish it?
Not right now. No, unfortunately.
Bastard. All right, we're gonna have to get a bottle of that and finish reading Drops of God. Anyway,
I'd love to get the Chardonnay too, and like try them varietally with other Chards and Sauvignon Blancs and see what changes.
Bad idea. All right, look forward to another episode too, guys. You know how we do here. Woo. Anyway. I went a bit atypical and non-traditional as well. As I said, wine-wise, I was just like nothing. It just wasn't hitting the palate. I knew that cultural kind of mashup was going to be necessary, even though I don't think this film is necessarily a matchup. It's just sort of a mashup by numbers. It's there isn't a whole lot of depth to it. So I decided to pair with the best version of this film in my mind. So, as I said earlier, this will make sense once I get into it. As I said earlier, I imagine there's probably a better version of this script early on, or at least a better plot, a better idea, a more dense and interesting idea.
My cat has a better version of this script in his head.
Exactly, precisely. And so I'm pairing with that version, and I imagine it's so Middle American, but it's also at its core a concept of Japanese culture. And for me, it's whiskey in terms of that Middle American core kind of, the man's drink outside of beer, of course, the sort of, that core sort of drink. So it's whiskey for me, of course. It's we consider it an American thing. Most Americans consider it a very American thing. And
bourbon would be the more American.
Absolutely,
thing
it would be
whiskey.
sure. It would be the more American, but in general,
Yeah,
I think most Americans consider the whiskey kind of the American cornerstone. So, and the old fashioned, I think, is sort of rooted in that old world Americana, and I decided to find or make. Actually, this was a make situation. An old fashioned using a Japanese whiskey. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what a classic old fashioned is, it's made by muddling some sugar cubes or simple syrup. You get 2 or 3 dashes of an Angostura bitters, a splash of water, and you add some bourbon or rye whiskey. And ice, and you stir well, all the good stuff, and then some orange peel and a little cherry liqueur or a cherry if you're feeling a little adventurous. And as far as Japanese whiskeys go, there's the Nikka, of course. If you guys are familiar with the Nikka, Japanese whiskey, or Nikka, as my friend says. Apparently, I say it wrong all the time, but that's nothing new for you guys here. That's what we do. The founder of Nikka is Masataka Tekatsura Suru, who traveled to Scotland in the 1900s to learn the process of distilling Scotch whiskey. And he ended up marrying a woman from Glasgow, and he took everything he learned and then, of course, created this brand of whiskeys. They are fantastic, very refined. They're considered very pure, and they are lovely on their own. The Japanese old fashioned consists of one Japanese. It has to be a Japanese sugar cube, by the way. I don't know what that means, but a Japanese sugar cube, half an orange slice.
I was holding back to ask for when you brought it up.
I know
what
you're
is
right.
a Japanese sugar cube? Okay.
I'm sure there's a designation someplace. There's, of course, maraschino cherry. You get the orange peel, a dash or two of Angostura bitters. And by the way, if you guys don't know what Angostura bitters are, they are generally made in Trinidad and Tobago. They use a closely guarded 200-year-old secret recipe involving high-proof alcohol, Ganesian root, bark, spices, botanicals. The ingredients are steeped, often in via percolation, to extract the concentrated flavors, which are then blended with sugar and water and caramel color. And you get this really potent sort of drop of aromatic that you add to these drinks, and it responds really well to alcohol. So the directions for your Japanese old fashioned: you will pour a touch of water in the bottom of your glass, muddle the sugar in the glass, add the cherry and the bitters, pour in your Nikka whiskey, stir exactly 50 to 100 times. I don't know what that means. And then you twist and garnish with an orange peel. It is a lovely drink. It is probably more interesting than this film deserves. There's a hell of a lot more.
My wine, your drink. Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot more depth to the bitters than this film deserves. There's a hell of a lot more depth, particularly to the whiskey, than this film deserves. But I will say, you might as well drink something that's going to get you drunk when you watch this film. And this will definitely do it. So that is my pairing for Gung-Ho, 1986.
Sweet.
Oof.
And by the way, Japanese sugar cubes, particularly Okinawa Kokuto brown sugar, and wasanban, fine-grained white sugar, are artisanal, nutrient-rich sweeteners with deep, complex flavors. Okinawa brown sugar is mineral-rich and earthy, while wasanban is delicate, often used in traditional higashi candies. They are popular for coffee, tea, and cooking. Amen. All right, guys. So that was 1986 Gung-Ho, starring Michael Keaton and directed by Ron Howard. We watched it for you, so you don't have to. You're welcome. But definitely go try and find that wine. Try yourself a Japanese whiskey-based old-fashioned. I think those will actually keep you quite happy.
I think so.
As we go. Now, before we go, as always, do you love this podcast or like? We'll settle for a like, but we hope you love it as well. But if you love this podcast, you love this wine and movie pairing shtick, then make sure to follow us and subscribe to this pod. Also, leave us a rating and a review because all of these things make it easier for others to find out about us. Because as we say at the end of every single podcast, every single episode, no one's looking for a wine and movie pairing podcast. It's a weird old concept. But I can tell you, every time people learn about us, every time, whether it's I'm mentioning it to someone or they find us online, they're always like, this is the coolest thing. So people would love to find us if they knew we existed. So leave us a rating and review. Make sure to follow and subscribe. That helps all of that happen even better, and to endear yourself even more to our completely self-obsessed hearts. Go follow us on Substack. Go to vintertainmentstudios.com, where we will keep you all up to date on all our upcoming live in-person wine and movie events here in Los Angeles, online events, as well as bonus wine and entertainment pairings, collabs with other writers, filmmakers, and wine peeps. And if you ask nicely on our Substack, you can message us. You can direct message us once you're following us on Substack. You can ask us to help you with your own wine and movie pairing. Whatever it is you want to watch or whatever it is you want to drink and then you want to pick the movie, we will help you do it. Just ask. We love doing this. We're super okay with doing it even more.
But be careful.
We've done this for a few people already.
Be careful.
Yeah.
There may be Reuniti on the list. I'm just saying. We're not above it. We're totally not above it.
We're totally not above it, but if you've never tried Reuniti, keep an open mind, because we were shocked by how good that stuff was. Anyways, many thanks to our sponsor, Curated Wine Shop. No idea where to begin finding a wine that pairs with your movie. That's okay. Nobody does, but Curated is here to help. They accept every Vintertainment-inspired challenge and will curate the selection to match your palate. Just tell them what you're trying to pair with, your budget, your preferences, and they will show you the way. Curated Wine Shop is a boutique wine shop on La Brea Avenue, Mid-City, Los Angeles, founded and operated by peeps currently and previously part of the entertainment ecosystem. Johnny, Kelly, Allison, and Mia, they're all fantastic. Go meet them. They carry an ever-changing, wide-ranging selection of small lot artisanal wines, from the known and comforting to the completely unique reds, whites, rosés, oranges, sparklings, dry wines, sweet wines, and everything in between. I don't know what that means, but everything in between. Go check them out if you're in the LA area. Find them at curated-wines.com online. They do ship, so curated-wines.com and vintertainmentstudios.com for us, Vintertainment Bros. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back in 1 week with another wine and entertainment pairing for your Vintertainment. But ciao for now.
Later, guys. Let's get into the crazy.
Get into the crazy.
That's our next theme song. Get into the crazy with Dallas and Dave. That needs to stay open.
We can have that as a little transitionary jingle. You know,
That's
when
what-
we're about to when we're about to start talking about the movie itself.
Right.
Get into the crazy with Dallas and
Thousand
Dave.
Day. Now with wine.
Stick it in, jam it in, jam it in,
No, don't jam, Dave. Don't jam.
till it feels like it's a sin.
What have you been up to this week? Somebody's got
And that's
stories.
only, and that's only when you begin to improve. Oh yeah.
Wow. A poet, ladies, a poet.